So we're in the process of putting the Hoonigan Accord wagon back together. Basically just some unforeseen stuff. We had to take the car apart, and now we finally have the opportunity to put it back together. So when we took the car apart, we hadn't fully finished it yet, so now we're kind of having to do some worse work to go through and, you know, cut out and replace some of the stuff that we originally put in. We never got finished because it's set outside.
Like the trans tunnel?
Yeah, so like all these edges Dawson just went through, but originally these, like you can see right here, it's still hanging out. We never fully cut these off and welded them from this side because we originally threw it together to get it to the car show and didn't have a lot of this stuff finished. So now that it's set outside, it's weathered and all this stuff was bare.
We're gonna pour 15 it, or?
Yeah, or there's another one, I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically like that, but it's a little bit different. But like right in here, we're gonna have to cut this piece and dolly this out, weld this seam, and these all gotta get cut and welded and stuff. So just basically kind of finishing what we started, but now it's a little bit more difficult because now we're dealing with the rust and some other stuff we gotta cut out and change. But ultimately just kind of pressing on and finishing it for what we were planning on doing a long time ago.
So what do we got going on here?
So the original mounts for the back wheel used to be here. It used to be a much smaller wheel. So we cut this rear bracket off that was down here to raise it up. And then I added these two braces here to tie in to make it look like it was a factory frame. And then these gussets here to hold the actual wheel mount. Basically, we're putting Grom wheels on a mini bike for the owner of KC Detail. And we just made, so this bracket was for the Grom, and it's only got one mounting point to go to the wheel, so when you move the wheel, the bracket slides with it, otherwise the caliper would be farther away from the rotor. So we had to make a mount here that'll center the bracket to keep it stationary so it won't spin when you get on the brake.
And that's gonna get filled with weld?
This part?
Yeah.
We're gonna actually take a piece of tube and notch a section out of here and French it in.
Okay.
And that's to get this part of the caliper to slide. It'll be like that. So that'll allow the caliper to travel in there without hitting the frame. And then we got to mount two gas tanks on it and put fork bearings in it, and then it's off for him to do whatever to paint it and get the rest of the stuff put together. We also shortened the front forks and mounted a brake on that also. So basically it's going to look about like that. He's going to get shorter bolts for where the axle bolts are. He's going to get shorter ones. These are just the factory Grom ones for now. But then if you look on the back of this, you can see the mounts we Frenched in for the caliper. This makes it look a little bit cleaner. Makes it look like it was, you know, designed that way. So.
And the plan is still RB25 Neo?
Yeah, the only difference is this one is an all-wheel drive block, so we're going to have to do a little bit more work with the oil pan. Cut off the transfer case and see if there's any clearance issues here that we didn't have before with the rear-wheel drive pan. But other than that, it's about the same. Still RB25 trans.
Can't swap to a,
got the same drive shaft.
Can't swap to a rear-wheel drive pan.
So the all-wheel drive blocks have 10mm bolts holding the oil pan on because of the all-wheel drive. And they don't line up with the M6s, the really tiny ones. They do sell adapters, but I think the pan's going to be too tall after that because we built the mounts to be right.
Lower.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's already slim.
Yep. So I think we're going to try to just put the stock mounts on it, put it in there and see how close it is, and then go from there. And then finish the notch in the rear end and hopefully place some of that stuff in before it goes to Florida. So try to keep in mind that this car was built, you know, several years ago and it's weathered outside. So we got to take all this stuff apart and clean it all up. And a lot of this was left unfinished because we just kind of stopped the build. So like in here, these cutaways here, these are not finished. We got to diagonal cut these to get the same clearance in there, and then all these corners need plated. But this was the original frame rail in here going up, and we had to notch it along the edge in order to get the subframe.
And the subframe is S13.
Yes. So like right here, you can see the factory mount on the car. You're gonna have to come in under the frame to get to that. So this is the factory piece. So what we did here is we actually cut out a pocket on the back and took these bolts and made sleeves for them to align to these. And then we put them in on the top, dropped them through, and welded them into the factory one. So essentially this is just cut out to get to that location. Now the rear piece is totally different. You can get up actually above here to see it, but it's actually a beam that goes across. And that has its own anchors in it that drop through the subframe mounts as well that we made, and that's welded between the original two frame rails. Now, after all this gets cut, we're gonna have to drop the subframe back out of here and box the frame rails in fully, because we never fully got those cut out or clearanced for everything. But like back here, we've got this L-angle welded to the frame rail for the gas tank straps. And then in the front, we have its own square tube.
And this gas tank is Z31 or Z32?
Z32, yeah.
Yeah.
This is made to go here, but we couldn't fit it there without making it way higher because the subframe is so high in the car to fix the geometry that the drive shaft was too high to clearance through here.
Gotcha.
So we mounted it in the rear because we have that extra trunk space that we could do that. And we thought it was kind of cool because you could get the floor jack under here to get on the diff to lift the car up. You know, normally on S13s, the gas tank's in the way once you get them really low. So that was kind of neat to be able to do. I mean, if you look, it's all stock arms and everything. We never got around to changing any of it. The only thing that's back here that's aftermarket is the coilovers.
Give me the loot, give me the loot, give me the dog, me and my